Let's have a look at DNA inheritance in families. We inherit our DNA from our parents. So we get half our DNA from our mom and half our DNA from our dad. So here we have got a mom and a dad, and they're going to have a child that they're each going to give half their DNA to. This half comes from mom, and that half comes from dad. Now, let's give them another child, and they're going to do the same thing. Mom's going to give half her DNA, Dad's going to give half of his DNA, but it's not going to be the same half that was given to the older sibling. While it's not exactly the same DNA that's been passed down to each sibling, we do see that they share, on average, about half of their DNA. With these siblings, it's this bit here and that bit there that they have in common. Okay, let's take this down another generation. Here we go, let's give them some partners, and let's give this couple here a child. The same thing happens again. Each parent passes on half their DNA to the child. So this half here, that comes from this parent, and that half there comes from that parent. And what you can see is that this child shares about a quarter of its DNA with each of its grandparents. So this bit here you can see comes from grandma, and that bit there, that comes from granddad. You can also see that this child is going to share about 25% of its DNA with an aunt or uncle. So it's this section here and that little section there that it's sharing in common with an aunt or an uncle. Now, let's give this other couple its own child. So this is a cousin to this one here, and you can see the same thing again. It's inheriting half of its DNA from each parent. This half comes from this parent, and that half comes from that parent. This child, again, shares about a quarter of its DNA with each grandparent. So that comes from grandma, and that comes from granddad. And again, it's sharing about a quarter of its DNA with an aunt or an uncle. So again, that's this little section in here. And you can see when looking at the cousins here that they share, on average, about 12.5% of their DNA. In these two, it's going to be this little section here. So there you go. There's a simple way of looking at the percentage of DNA inheritance in families.